The sky turned black over every major city on Earth at exactly the same moment. It was not an eclipse. It was not a storm. It was 10,000 warships, each one larger than a mountain blocking out the sun. They hung in the sky like metal gods, silent and terrible, casting shadows that stretched for hundreds of miles. Admiral stood on the observation deck of the Geneva Command Center and watched the ships arrive. She was 62 years old. She had fought in 3 wars. She had seen death and victory and everything in between, but she had never seen anything like this. "How many?" she asked quietly. Colonel stood beside her, his tablet shaking slightly in his hands. 10,000 confirmed warships, Admiral, plus support vessels, transport ships. The full count is closer to 15,000. Did the math in her head. Humanity's entire fleet, gathered from Earth and all 12 colony worlds, numbered about 200 ships. They were outnumbered 50 to 1, maybe more. "The Dominion," she said. It was not a question. "Yes, Admiral." Everyone knew about They were the oldest empire in the galaxy. They had conquered over 400 species across 1,000 years. No one had ever defeated them. No one had ever even slowed them down. And now they had come for humanity. The main screen in the command center flickered to life. A face appeared, if it could be called a face. They looked like insects crossed with machines. Their skin was dark purple, hard like armor. Their eyes were black and empty, showing no emotion. When they spoke, their mouths did not move. The sound came from somewhere deep in their throats. "I am High Arbiter," the creature said. Its voice was cold and flat, like metal scraping against stone. "I speak for the Dominion. I speak for the Empire that has brought order to 400 worlds. I speak for the force that has never known defeat." Watched in silence. Around her, officers and soldiers gathered, their faces pale. "You are the species called humans," continued. "You have spread to 13 worlds. You have built ships. You have weapons. You believe yourselves to be strong." The creature paused. "You are not strong. You are insects. You are dust. You are nothing." The screen showed images now. Other species. Other worlds. Saw cities burning. She saw creatures that looked like gentle giants being marched into camps. She saw beings with beautiful wings having those wings cut off. She saw children, alien children, but still children, being separated from their parents and loaded onto dark ships. "This is the fate of those who resist," said. "The resisted. Now they serve as fuel for our engines. The resisted. Now their minds power our computers, trapped forever in living death. The resisted. Now their bodies have been changed, rebuilt, turned into soldiers who fight for us without will or memory." Felt her hands curl into fists. "You have one choice," said. "Surrender. Lay down your weapons. Open your cities. Accept our rule. Do this within 24 hours and some of you will be allowed to live. Your strongest will serve us. Your will feed our machines. Your children will be raised to know only obedience." The creature leaned closer to the screen. Its black eyes seemed to stare directly at. "Refuse and you will be erased. Your cities will burn. Your ships will be dust. Your species will be forgotten. The galaxy will never know you existed." The screen went dark. Silence filled the command center. No one moved. No one spoke. Could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. 24 hours. That was all humanity had. 24 hours to decide between slavery and death. She looked around the room. She saw fear in every face. She saw despair. She saw young officers, barely out of training, who had joined the fleet dreaming of exploration and adventure. She saw old veterans who had fought hard wars and won. She saw men and women who had families, children, dreams. They all knew the numbers. They all knew the odds. This was not a battle humanity could win. Sergeant Major Torres was the first to break the silence. He was a big man, 50 years old, with scars on his face and hands that had seen too many fights. He stood near the back of the room, arms crossed over his chest. And he laughed. It was not a nervous laugh. It was not a crazy laugh. It was a real laugh, deep and warm, like he had just heard the funniest joke in the galaxy. Everyone turned to look at him. "Sergeant," said. Torres shook his head, still laughing. "I'm sorry, Admiral, I'm sorry, it's just—" He wiped his eyes. "Did that bug really just tell us to surrender? Did he really just say that?" "He did," said. "And he thinks we're going to do it. He expects us to." Torres laughed again. "Then he doesn't know humans very well, does he?" Something changed in the room, felt it. The fear was still there, but something else was growing beside it, something stronger. Lieutenant Park, a young woman from the Sol Fleet, started to smile. "My grandmother survived 3 wars," she said. "She always told me, never kneel to anyone." "My father was a miner on Mars," said Commander, a tall man with gray in his hair. "He used to say, if you're going to die, die standing up." "My kids are on the colony," said Captain Reeves, her voice hard. "If these things think I'm going to let them touch my children, they've got another thing coming." One by one, voices joined. Stories of grandparents who had survived impossible things. Stories of ancestors who had fought against terrible odds. Stories of humans who had refused to give up, refused to kneel, refused to die quietly. The fear did not disappear, but it was no longer alone. Turned to face the main screen. She pressed the button to broadcast on all channels, every ship, every colony, every city on Earth. "This is Admiral, Supreme Commander of Human Defense Forces," she said. Her voice was calm and steady. "You have all seen the enemy's message. You have all heard their demand. They want us to surrender. They want us to kneel. They want us to give up everything we are, everything we have built, everything we love." She paused. "I have one answer for them." She looked at Torres, at Park, at Reeves, at every face in the room. "We don't kneel, we don't surrender, we don't give up." Her voice grew stronger. "They think we're insects. Let's show them what insects can do when you step on their nest. They think we're weak. Let's show them what weak looks like when it's angry. They want our surrender." She smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Tell them we're still loading." Across Earth, across the colonies, across every ship in the human fleet, people heard her words. And something happened. Something that they, in all their 1,000 years of conquest, had never seen before. Humanity did not panic. Humanity did not beg. Humanity did not run. Humanity started preparing to fight. In factories, workers began making weapons. In shipyards, engineers started reinforcing hulls. In military bases, soldiers checked their rifles and loaded their ammunition. In homes, families said goodbye to each other, not with tears but with promises. "We will fight, we will resist, we will make them remember us." High Arbiter watched the human response from his flagship. He had seen 400 species face this moment. He had seen them cry. He had seen them beg. He had seen them turn on each other, fighting for the chance to surrender first. He had never seen a species laugh. He had never seen a species reload. For the first time in his long life, felt something he did not recognize. It was small, just a tiny seed in his ancient mind. It was doubt. The clock showed 23 hours remaining. Colonel James stood on the command deck of Orbital Defense Platform 7, looking down at Earth through the reinforced windows. From up here, the planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, green lands, white clouds. It looked like nothing was wrong. But the shadows were there, dark spots moving across continents, the fleet waiting. "Colonel," said Lieutenant, a young officer with tired eyes, "the crew has voted." Turned to face her, voted. "Yes, sir. Command offered evacuation shuttles for anyone who wanted to leave. We held a vote." She smiled weakly. "Nobody wants to go." Felt something warm in his chest. Pride, maybe, or love. He had served with these people for 5 years. He knew their names. He knew their families. He knew their dreams. "Tell them thank you," he said quietly. "Yes, sir." The orbital platforms were humanity's first line of defense. There were 12 of them, circling Earth like protective giants. Each one carried enough weapons to destroy a small moon. Against a normal enemy, they would have been enough. Against 10,000 warships, they would last maybe an hour. Everyone knew it, nobody talked about it. Down on Earth, in a secret laboratory beneath the Swiss Alps, Dr. Sarah worked without sleep. She was a scientist who studied alien life. For 15 years, she had studied them from a distance, examining the few samples and recordings that humanity had collected. She knew more about them than anyone else on Earth. And she had found something. "Look at this," she said to her team, pointing at the screen. It showed a scan of brain tissue taken from a dead soldier found on a destroyed ship years ago. "See these structures, these neural pathways." Her assistant, leaned closer. "They look connected, like wires in a network." "Exactly." His eyes were bright with exhaustion and excitement. "They don't think as individuals. They're connected, all of them, a hive mind. Each is linked to every other through something like a biological radio signal. That's why they move so perfectly," said slowly. "That's why their tactics are so coordinated. They're not communicating, they're sharing thoughts directly." "Yes, and it makes them incredibly dangerous. They can react together, think together, fight together." Paused. "But it also makes them vulnerable." "Vulnerable how?" Pulled up another image. "The hive mind has a center, a source. It's like the brain of the brain. We call it the primary node. Every mind is connected to it. If we could destroy the primary node or disrupt it, the whole network would collapse," whispered. "Not just collapse, tear apart. Every connected to the network would experience total neural failure. Their minds would destroy themselves." Stared at her. "You're talking about killing them all of them, with one strike." "I'm talking about giving humanity a chance," said. "The primary node is on the flagship. Ship. If we can get a specially designed virus into that ship and release it near the node, it will spread through the entire network in seconds." "How do we get it there?" Looked at the ceiling, at the mountain of rock above them, at the sky beyond that held 10,000 enemy ships. "That," she said, "is the hard part." Across human space, something strange was happening. On the colony world of 442b, a farming planet known for its wheat fields and quiet life, the evacuation ships were ready. Families were supposed to board. Children were supposed to be taken to safety. Instead, the farmers gathered in the town square. Old, 70 years old with a white beard and hands rough from 50 years of work, stood on a wooden box and spoke. "I've been farming this land for 30 years, he said. "I came here with nothing. I built my home with my own hands. I raised my children here. I buried my wife here." He looked around at the faces watching him. "And now these aliens want me to run. They want me to leave everything I love." He picked up a mining laser, a tool meant for cutting rock but deadly enough against flesh. "I'm too old to run, too stubborn to hide. If they want this land, they're going to have to take it from my dead hands." One by one, other farmers picked up their tools, mining lasers, plasma cutters, heavy equipment that could crush a tank. These were not soldiers. These were farmers, teachers, doctors, shopkeepers. But they were also humans. On B, the closest colony to Earth, teachers organized refugee shelters in school buildings. They made sure every child had food, water, and a safe place to sleep. Then they picked up rifles and stood guard at the doors. "The children come first," said Principal, checking her weapon. "But if those things break through our soldiers, they'll find us waiting." On ships throughout the fleet, crews said goodbye to their families through video calls. Husbands kissed their wives through screens. Mothers told their children they loved them. Friends made promises they might not keep. And then they went back to work. In Geneva, Admiral gathered her senior officers for a final briefing. "We can't win a straight fight," she said. "We all know that. 10,000 to 200. Those aren't odds, that's mathematics. We'd be dead in an hour. Nobody argued. But we're not going to fight a straight fight. She activated a holographic display. It showed the fleet, the human fleet and Earth between them. Doctor has given us a weapon, a virus that can destroy the hive mind, but it has to be delivered directly to his flagship. How? Asked Commander Reeves. That ship is in the center of their fleet, said Colonel, protected by thousands of other ships. Getting close would be suicide. Yes, said simply, it would. The room fell silent. We need a distraction, continued. A big one, big enough to pull their fleet out of formation, big enough to create an opening for a single shuttle to slip through. She looked at her officers. Operation Prometheus. We throw everything we have at them, every ship, every platform, everything. That's not a battle plan, said slowly. That's a sacrifice. Yes, it is. Met his eyes. I'm not going to lie to you, most of us won't survive this. Maybe none of us will, but if we can get that virus into their flagship, we can save everyone else. Every colony, every child, every person who ever called themselves human. She stood straight, her voice strong. We're not fighting to win. We're fighting to buy time. Every minute we hold them is another minute for Doctor's team. Every ship we destroy is one less ship attacking Earth. Every life we spend is an investment in humanity's future. Nodded slowly. I've always wanted to be an investment. That got a few laughs, tired laughs but real ones. I won't order anyone to do this, said. I'm asking for volunteers. Every hand in the room went up. Later that night stood alone in her quarters. She held a photograph in her hands, her son. He was 30 years old, living on a colony ship with his wife and daughter. Safe, she hoped. She touched the picture gently. I'm sorry I won't see you again, she whispered, but I'll make sure you have a future to live in. Outside her window, the fleet waited in the darkness like hungry wolves. The clock showed 12 hours remaining. Humanity was not ready. No one could be ready for this. But humanity was not going to run. In factories, the last weapons rolled off production lines. In barracks, soldiers wrote final letters home. In churches and temples and mosques, people prayed not for victory but for courage. And in orbit, Colonel looked at his crew one last time. Tomorrow we make history, he said. Tomorrow we show the galaxy what humans are made of. Tomorrow we teach the something they've never learned in 1,000 years. He smiled. We teach them fear. The clock kept ticking. The storm was coming. And humanity was ready to meet it. The 24 hours ended in silence. High Arbiter sat in his command throne aboard the flagship Eternal Dominion. He had expected a response from the humans. Begging, negotiation, perhaps the surrender of their leaders in exchange for mercy. He had received nothing. They did not answer, said his second war commander, confusion in his voice. They simply ignored us. No, said slowly, they answered. Their silence is their answer. He rose from his throne. Around him, 10,000 warships waited for his command. 400 species had fallen before this fleet. 400 civilizations had ended under his hand. Begin the extermination, he ordered. The fleet moved as one. Colonel saw them coming. On his screens, 10,000 red dots began advancing toward Earth. They moved in perfect formation, like a single organism with 10,000 parts. All platforms, this is Colonel, he said into his communicator. They're coming. Hold your positions. Remember the plan. Buy as much time as you can. Across the 12 orbital platforms, crews took their positions. Weapons powered up. Shields activated. Men and women who had never fought a real battle before said quiet prayers and gripped their controls. For Earth, someone whispered. For humanity, another answered. The first weapons fired. Beams of purple energy crossed the void like deadly lightning. They struck orbital platform 3 with the force of a small sun. The platform lasted 4 seconds. Watch it explode, 97 people gone in a flash of light. Return fire, he commanded. Human weapons blazed, missiles, energy cannons, everything they had. The shots struck shields and did almost nothing. It was like throwing rocks at a mountain. But they kept firing. Platform 7 shook as enemy fire struck it. Alarms screamed. Lights flickered. Smoke filled the corridors. Hull breach on Deck 4, Lieutenant reported. Seal it, ordered. Keep firing. Sir, our shields are failing. Then fire faster. Another platform exploded. Then another. The fleet advanced through the wreckage like it was nothing, like the platforms were insects being stepped on. But the insects were fighting back. A human missile somehow found a gap in a cruiser's shields. The explosion tore the ship in half. It was the first ship destroyed in over 200 years. It would not be the last. Admiral watched the battle from the bridge of the UHS Defiance. Her flagship was the pride of the human fleet, the biggest, strongest ship humanity had ever built. Against it looked like a toy. All ships engage, she ordered. Remember, we're not trying to win, we're trying to create chaos. Make them work for every inch. Make them remember every ship they destroy. The human fleet charged. It was not a fair fight. It was never going to be a fair fight. Weapons tore through human shields. Ships moved faster, turned sharper, fought smarter. Their hive mind made them perfect warriors, each one knowing exactly what every other one was thinking. But humans had something they did not understand. They had rage. Commander Torres led a squadron of 12 frigates straight at a dreadnought. 11 of his ships were destroyed in the first minute. His own ship was burning, engines failing, weapons gone. He aimed his crippled ship at the dreadnought and pushed the engines to maximum. "This is for Earth," he said, and rammed directly into the enemy's bridge. Both ships exploded together. Across the battlefield, humans did the same. When their weapons failed, they used their ships. When their ships failed, they used themselves. Every death took an enemy with it. Every sacrifice cost the something they could not replace. "This is not possible," War Commander said aboard the Eternal Dominion. "They are dying. They cannot win. Why do they not stop?" Did not answer. He was watching the battle with growing unease. He had conquered 400 species. He had seen countless last stands, but they were always desperate, hopeless, full of fear. These humans were laughing. He could hear them on the communication channels. Laughing, joking, saying goodbye to each other with warmth and love even as they died. They were treating their own deaths like a celebration. "What are they?" whispered. "I do not know," admitted, and for the first time in centuries he felt something cold in his chest. On Earth's surface, the real nightmare began. Dropships fell from the sky like metal rain. They landed in cities, in fields, in suburbs. From each ship came hundreds of soldiers, 8 feet tall, armored in purple shells, carrying weapons that could cut a human in half. They expected easy victory. They were wrong. A retired schoolteacher named Maria Santos stood between 2 buildings. She was 68 years old. She had bad knees. She had never held a weapon in her life. She held one now. They came down the street in perfect formation. Maria opened fire with an old hunting rifle. Her first shot missed. Her second hit in the eye. It fell. More came, she kept shooting. When her rifle was empty, she threw homemade explosives. When those were gone, she threw rocks. When the rocks were gone, she threw curses. She held that street for 6 hours. She killed 47 soldiers. When they finally killed her, she was still standing. All across Earth, scenes like this repeated. Soldiers fought beside civilians. Teenagers fought beside grandparents. People who had never agreed on anything in their lives stood together against the enemy. In Tokyo, A group of office workers trapped a squad in a subway tunnel and collapsed it on them. In Cairo, a mosque became a fortress. The imam led prayers between battles. They held for 2 days. In New York, the remains of a police department made their last stand in Central Park. They spray-painted a message on the ground so the enemy ships above could see it. Come and get US. They came, the police died, but they took 200 enemies with them. Dr. Sarah worked through the chaos. The bioweapon was almost ready. The virus was designed, tested, perfected. Now she needed to get it to the enemy flagship. The shuttle is prepared, her assistant said. He was pale, shaking, but his voice was steady. Light stealth systems, minimal weapons, enough to slip through if they're distracted. If repeated. Admiral is providing the distraction, the entire fleet. Looked at her hands. They were shaking. In her pocket was a small metal canister, the bioweapon, the hope of humanity in a container the size of a coffee cup. Then let's not waste their sacrifice, she said. Above Earth, Colonel knew his time was ending. Platform 7 was falling apart. Half his crew was dead, the other half was wounded. The weapons were almost out of ammunition. The shields were gone. But he was still fighting. Sir, Lieutenant said, her arm was broken. Blood ran down her face. She was still at her station. Enemy ships are breaking formation to deal with our platforms. Our attacks are working. We're creating gaps. Looked at his screens. She was right. The perfect formation was starting to scatter. Human resistance was forcing them to respond, to adapt, to break their patterns. It was working. Good, he said, then we keep going. A final volley of enemy fire struck the platform. Felt the floor tilt beneath him. Alarms that had been screaming for hours finally went silent as the power failed. All hands, he said into the emergency communicator. It has been an honor. He aimed his dying platform at the nearest ship and fired the last of his engines. Platform 7 hit the enemy cruiser at full speed. Both exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness of space. Died with his crew around him. But the gap they created would be the path Doctor needed. From her shuttle hidden among the debris and chaos watched the destruction. She saw ships die. She saw platforms fall. She saw heroes sacrificed so she could have a chance. Don't waste this, she whispered to herself. Don't you dare waste this. She started her engines and flew toward the enemy flagship. Behind her, humanity continued to fight, to bleed, to die. And to hope. 16 hours into the battle, humanity was losing. Admiral stood on the bridge of the Defiance, surrounded by smoke and flickering lights. Her uniform was torn. Her face was cut. Half her officers were dead and the other half were bleeding. But she was still standing. Status report, she ordered. We've lost 70% of the fleet, her tactical officer said. His voice was hoarse from shouting orders for 16 hours. All 12 orbital platforms are gone. Ground forces are holding in some areas, but the major cities are falling. Nodded slowly. 70%. That meant 140 ships destroyed, thousands of lives lost. And they've lost about 300 ships, maybe more. The officer paused. Admiral, we're actually hurting them. I don't think they expected this. 300 ships. Against a fleet of 10,000, it was nothing, but it was more than any other species had ever taken from them. Doctor asked. Her shuttle launched 2 hours ago. Last report said she was making progress through the debris field. No enemy contact yet. Yet that was the key word. Shuttle was small, hidden among the wreckage of human and ships, but sooner or later someone would notice her. Then we keep fighting, said. Every minute we survive is another minute for. A young ensign approached her. He was barely 20 years old, with tears in his eyes and blood on his hands. Admiral, he said quietly, we received word about the colony evacuation ships, the ones carrying civilians from Mars and the outer colonies. Felt her heart stop. What about them? They intercepted them, destroyed them, 30 ships, 50,000 people. The ensign swallowed, including the ship carrying your son. I'm sorry. For a moment could not breathe, her son, her grandchild gone. The bridge fell silent, everyone watched her. She closed her eyes. She saw as a baby laughing in her arms. She saw him as a boy asking her about the stars. She saw him as a man, proud and strong, telling her he was going to be a father. Gone, all of it gone. She opened her eyes. Continue the attack, she said. Her voice did not shake. All ships maintain pressure on the enemy fleet. Admiral, the ensign began. My son is dead, said quietly. So are 100,000 others. The only thing I can do for them now is make sure they didn't die for nothing. She turned back to the main screen. Helm, bring us about. Target the nearest enemy formation. The Defiance turned and charged back into battle. On Earth's surface, the night brought darkness and death. Sergeant Tors, no relation to the commander who had died hours before, led what was left of his squad through the ruins of Airs. Once, this had been a beautiful city. Now it was fire and rubble and screaming. There were 8 of them left, 8 soldiers out of the 50 he had started with. And Dr. Sarah. How much farther? Tors asked. Checked her tracker. She was small, thin, exhausted. Her clothes were torn and dirty, but she carried the metal canister like it was the most precious thing in the universe, because it was. 2 kilometers, she said. There's a captured shuttle at the old airport. If we can reach it, I can fly to the flagship. If, Tors repeated. If agreed. They moved through the darkness, staying low, avoiding the patrols that marched through the streets. The aliens were everywhere. Their purple armor glowed faintly in the night. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy. Tors watched them and felt only hatred. These creatures had destroyed everything. His home, his city, his friends. They had come to Earth to turn humanity into slaves. He would die before he let that happen. Contact, whispered Private, the youngest member of the squad. 6 enemies ahead, blocking the street. Tors looked. 6 soldiers standing in a line scanning for movement. Behind them, more were coming. We go around, whispered. No time, Tors said. They're tightening the net. If we don't break through now, we never will. He looked at his squad. 8 soldiers, 6 enemies. Normally good odds, but were stronger, faster, and harder to kill than humans. I'll draw their fire, Tors said. The rest of you get to that shuttle. Sergeant began. That's an order, Private. Tors checked his rifle. That canister is the only thing that matters. If it doesn't reach that flagship, everyone who died today died for nothing. You understand? Nodded slowly. His eyes were wet. Tors stood up. Hey, he shouted at over here, you ugly bugs. He opened fire. The next 30 seconds were chaos. Tors ran down the street, shooting, dodging, screaming. They turned to face him, their weapons blazing. Plasma bolts filled the air around him. He felt one hit his shoulder, then his leg, then his chest. He kept running, kept shooting, kept screaming. Behind him, he heard his squad moving. His voice, footsteps, they were getting away. Good. A soldier appeared in front of him. Tors didn't have time to shoot. He tackled it instead, driving his knife into the gap between its armor plates. The creature screamed, a horrible, mechanical sound, and died. Tors pulled out the knife and stood up. His vision was blurring. His legs were failing. He could feel blood running down his body. He turned and saw 3 more aiming at him. He smiled. You know what, he said, I've had worse days. He pulled the pins on every grenade on his belt. The explosion lit up the night. When the smoke cleared, Tors was gone. So were the 3 soldiers. Didn't look back, she couldn't. Tors had given his life for her. The least she could do was make it count. The shuttle was there, damaged but functional. a drop ship that human forces had captured in the early hours of the battle. "Can you fly this?" asked. "I can fly anything," said. It wasn't true, but it would have to be. She climbed inside. The controls were strange, alien, designed for hands that weren't human, but the basics were the same: thrust, direction, speed. "Go," said. "We'll hold them off." "You'll die," said. "Probably," smiled. It was a young smile, brave and scared at the same time. "But that's the job, isn't it? We die so others can live." Wanted to say something, something meaningful, something that would honor their sacrifice. Instead, she just nodded and started the engines. The shuttle lifted off. Below, she saw and the remaining soldiers taking position. She saw forces converging on them. She heard gunfire. Then she was above the city, above the battle, climbing toward the stars. Above Earth, High Arbiter made a second broadcast. "Humans," he said, his voice filled every channel, every frequency. "You have fought well, better than any species we have ever faced. Your courage is noted." He paused. "But courage is not enough. Your fleet is destroyed. Your cities burn, your people die. This battle is over." His black eyes seemed to stare through the screen. "I offer you mercy. Lay down your weapons now and some of you will live. Your strongest will serve us. Your children will be raised in peace. Your species will continue in a form." He waited for a response. He received one. Across Earth, across the colonies, across every ship and shelter and hiding place where humans still lived, a single word came back. "No." Not shouted, not screamed, just spoken calmly, firmly, absolutely. "No." Felt that cold feeling in his chest again, that unfamiliar sensation. "They refuse," War Commander said. "Even now, even when they have lost, they refuse." "Yes," said. "Why? What do they gain from dying?" Thought about that. He had conquered 400 species. He understood fear. He understood survival. He understood surrender. He did not understand this. "They gain nothing," he said slowly, "except the knowledge that they did not kneel." It made no sense. It was illogical. It was inefficient. But watching the humans fight, watching them die, watching them refuse to give up even when all hope was gone, felt something he had never felt in 1,000 years of conquest. He felt afraid. Not of losing, they would still win. The math was simple. He was afraid of what it meant. That somewhere in the galaxy there existed a species that could not be broken, that would rather die free than live as slaves. That even in defeat, refused to be defeated. Far below the flagship, in a stolen shuttle flying through debris and death, Dr. Sarah clutched her metal canister and flew toward destiny. She was one woman. She carried one weapon. And she was humanity's last hope. Dr. Sarah flew through hell. All around her, ships died. Human ships, ships. The space above Earth was filled with wreckage and fire and death. Her stolen shuttle was small, almost invisible among the chaos, but she knew it would not last. "Shuttle detected," a voice crackled in her communicator. It was Admiral, still alive, still fighting. "They've spotted you, Doctor. Enemy ships moving to intercept." Looked at her screens. 3 destroyers were breaking formation, turning toward her. They were fast. She was faster, but not fast enough. "I can't outrun them," she said. "You don't have to." Through her window saw the UHS Defiance. The flagship was barely holding together. Its hull was torn open. Its weapons were nearly gone. Fire burned in a dozen places. But it was still moving. "All remaining ships," broadcast. "This is Admiral. Our final mission begins now. Target those destroyers. Give Doctor a clear path to the enemy flagship." Admiral said, "Your ship can't survive another assault." "I know." The comm channel crackled. Other voices joined in. Ship captains, squadron leaders, the last survivors of humanity's fleet. "This is the Moscow. We're with you, Admiral." "Singapore standing by." Cairo ready. For tours. Nairobi for everyone. 50 ships. That was all that remained. 50 ships against 3,000. They charged. Watched them go. Watched the Defiance lead the way, its broken hull cutting through space like a wounded eagle still fighting to fly. Watched the Moscow and Singapore and all the others follow, their weapons blazing. The three destroyers turned to face them. More enemy ships joined. The battle became chaos. And in that chaos flew. Her shuttle slipped through the fighting like a ghost, past burning ships, through fields of debris, around energy blasts that could have vaporized her in an instant. The enemy flagship grew larger in her window, the Eternal Dominion, home of High Arbiter, heart of the fleet. Target. I'm approaching the flagship, reported, looking for a docking bay. His voice was strained. The sounds of explosions filled the background. We can't hold them much longer. The Defiance is. Static. Admiral. Nothing. Did not stop. She could not stop. Everything depended on her now. She found a docking bay on the flagship's underside. It was open. They were launching fighters to join the battle. She aimed her shuttle and flew straight in. The landing was rough. She hit the deck hard, skidding across the metal floor. Alarms started screaming immediately. They knew she was here. She grabbed the canister, checked her pistol, and ran. The inside of the flagship was strange and terrifying. The walls were purple metal. The lights were dim and red. Everything was designed for creatures taller and stronger than her. But she ran anyway. Drones appeared, soldier creatures with no minds of their own, controlled by the hive. She shot the first one in the head. The second she dodged. The third grabbed her arm and she shot it point blank. More were coming. She could hear them, hundreds of them. She ran faster. The command center. That was where she needed to go. That was where would be. That was where the primary node would be, the center of the hive mind. She followed the signs on the walls, alien symbols that her translator struggled to read, up corridors, through doors, past rooms filled with strange equipment and stranger creatures. She was wounded. She did not remember when it happened. Her side was bleeding, her arm was burned, but she kept moving. The command center door was ahead. 2 elite guards stood before it, not drones, but real warriors in full armor. Raised her pistol. She had 3 shots left. The first guard raised its weapon. She shot it in the throat. It fell. The second guard charged. She shot it twice. It kept coming, wounded but alive. She had no more bullets. The guard swung its blade, ducked, rolled, and drove her empty pistol into the wound she had made. The guard screamed and collapsed. She grabbed its blade and cut its throat. Then she pushed open the door to the command center. High Arbiter was waiting. The room was vast and dark, filled with pulsing lights and humming machines. In the center, suspended in a column of purple energy, was the primary node, a mass of living tissue connected to thousands of cables, the brain of the hive mind. And before it stood. He was larger than the others, older. His armor was gold and black, covered in symbols of his rank. His eyes were deep and ancient. "You are the one," he said. His voice was calm. "The one they sent, the one they sacrificed everything for." Held the canister in one hand and the alien blade in the other. She was bleeding. She was exhausted. She was alone. "Yes," she said. "Why?" The question surprised her. Why what? Why fight? You have lost. Your fleet is destroyed. Your people are dying. Even if you kill me, even if you destroy this ship, you cannot win. We have 10,000 ships. You have nothing. Laughed. It hurt, but she laughed anyway. "You don't understand, do you?" Tilted his head. "Explain." "You've conquered 400 species. 400. And you think you understand strength. You think you understand power." Took a step forward. "But you don't understand humans. You are weak, you are small, you are We are people who would rather die free than live as slaves, said. We are people who laugh at your ultimatums and reload our weapons. We are people who fight when there's no hope, who stand when there's no ground, who keep going when there's nothing left. She took another step. You know what you didn't know about humans. We don't fight because we can win. We fight because fighting is what we are, because giving up is not in our nature, because every human who died today chose death over surrender. She raised the canister. You demanded we kneel. We laughed. You demanded we surrender. We reloaded. And now, High Arbiter of the Dominion, we're going to show you what happens when you corner an animal that refuses to die. Moved fast, faster than any creature his size should move. His blade cut through the air towards neck, but was already moving. She ducked under the strike, drove the alien blade into his leg, and rolled past him. He screamed a horrible metallic sound and fell to one knee. Ran toward the primary node. Stop her, he shouted. Drones poured into the room, dozens of them. They grabbed at, tore at her clothes, cut her skin. She kept going. The node was in front of her, pulsing, alive, connected to every in the fleet. She opened the canister. This is for every species you destroyed, she said. This is for every child you enslaved. This is for every human who died believing this moment would come. She pressed the canister against the node. This is for Earth. The virus released. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the screaming began. Every in the room collapsed. Every drone stopped moving, grabbed his head and screamed as the virus tore through the hive mind, spreading from ship to ship, mind to mind, destroying everything it touched. Across the fleet, 10,000 ships went silent. Soldiers fell where they stood. Pilots lost control of their vessels. Ships crashed into each other. The perfect, unstoppable armada became chaos. Watched die. Watched the light fade from his ancient eyes. Watched the last breath leave his body. Then she fell to the floor. She was dying, she knew it. The wounds were too deep. The blood loss was too great. But she was smiling. We won, she whispered. We actually won. The comm system crackled. A voice came through, human voice, crying with joy. The enemy fleet is falling, they're crashing. They're dying, we did it, Earth is saved. Closed her eyes. She thought about her parents, her friends, the students she had taught, the species she had studied, the world she had loved. She thought about Tors dying with grenades in his hands, about ramming his platform into the enemy, about leading the charge one last time, about every human who had fought and died so she could reach this moment. Thank you, she whispered, all of you, thank you. And then Dr. Sarah, savior of humanity, died with a smile on her face. 1 year later, Earth was healing. The scars were everywhere, ruined cities, empty towns, graves that stretched for miles. Humanity had paid a terrible price for its survival. But it had survived. In Geneva, they built a memorial, a great wall of names stretching half a mile long, listing every person who died in the battle for Earth. Admiral, Colonel, Sergeant Tors, Dr. Sarah, and hundreds of thousands more. In front of the wall stood a statue, a human figure standing tall, holding a rifle in one hand and a canister in the other. The face was nobody specific and everybody at once. The inscription at the base read, They demand surrender. We reload. People came from across human space to see it. Civilians, soldiers, children. And others came too. The freed from their living death when they died. The whose minds returned to them after centuries of slavery. The slowly regaining their memories and identities. They came to see the species that had done what no one else could. The species that had faced the unconquerable and refused to kneel. They came to see the humans. And standing among them, watching the memorial with quiet pride, were the survivors, the farmers of who had fought with mining tools, the teachers of who had protected their children, The old men and young women who had picked up weapons for the first time and learned what they were made of. An elder approached one of them, an old woman with gray hair and tired eyes. "Your people saved us all," the elder said. "How did you do it? How did you defeat an enemy that had never lost?" The old woman thought about it. She remembered the fear, the pain, the loss. But mostly, she remembered the choice. "We didn't do anything special," she said finally. "We just didn't give up. When they said surrender, we laughed. When they said it was hopeless, we reloaded." She looked at the memorial, at the names, at the statue. "That's all humans have ever done," she said. "Fight, fall, get back up, fight again." She smiled. "They demanded we surrender, but humans only laughed and reloaded for the final stand." The elder bowed deeply. "Then we are honored to know you," they said, "and the galaxy will never forget what you did." Above them the sky was clear and blue. Ships moved among the stars, human ships, alien ships, all of them free. The war was over. Humanity had won. And somewhere in a better place, the heroes who made it possible were finally at peace.